There you go. I know you all sing this in the shower. All right. Thanks for being here. Isn't this awesome? So they gave me 15 minutes to change the world, and I thought, well, maybe I can do it in 18 minutes. And then I kind of scaled down, and I thought, well, there are some things that we can do in 15 minutes, but I got to ask some questions first, and I got to get your permission to skip the small talk. Do I get your permission? Yes. Okay. So grab your piece of paper. If you don't already have it, grab a pen and draw 5 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on your piece of paper. Underneath each number, draw a circle. Under number 1, on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being great, 1 being not so great, I want you to put the first number that comes to mind in that circle under number 1 for this question. How successful do you think other people think you are? Under number 2, how successful are you? Under number 3, how successful is your business? Under number 4, where's your self-image on this scale? Under number 5, just put a 10 in that circle, just because it feels so damn good to put a 10 on these assessments. Okay, now this time of year I ask myself a few questions. In fact, I hope to get out on a sailboat soon with Christina Marie and ask these questions. I try to do it every year. They're the key questions every person should ask themselves because they're important, and I'd like to ask you them. But first I'd like you to close your eyes and ask yourself, where's the center of your being? If you were to pick a center, and wherever it is, move it down to your heart as I ask you these questions, because I'm really talking to your subconscious mind. Who am I anyway? Where am I at right now? I'm not talking about Business Theater Live. I'm talking about life. Where am I at in life right now? And where am I going? Okay, I just want you to think about these as we go through this, because this is really about identity. Exit strategy, transitions, they're about identity. They're about who you are. The major reasons exit strategies don't work is because you haven't figured out who you are and who you want to be. And you're not quite ready to move on yet. You haven't figured out what you're going to transition into. So the majority of the work I do is really identity shifting. It's strategic identity shifting. It's working with business owners to help them understand who they're going to be next, right? That's a difficult question because if you've been running a business for a long time, you are the business. So separating that out and figuring out what you're going to do next is something that takes some planning. It takes some strategy. It can be a storm or it can be smooth sailing. So what I do, the mechanics of what I do in a nutshell, is I work with a business owner as a buyer. I come in and I do all the due diligence I can, everything that a buyer would do for a business, and we look at it. How is someone else going to look at this business? What's the value of it? I work with a person's insurance agent, their CPA, their attorney. We look at it as if it's already sold. We look at the financial planning aspect of it to determine if the person can continue living the lifestyle they want if they do sell it. We act as if it's already sold. So the owner's got one foot out the door, and we test how the owner feels with this whole process. It's the psychology of identity shifting. So if you own a business and you've got a retirement date, do some identity shifting for yourself. What's next? Are you going to get on a board at the UW in your industry to maintain some respect? Respect and love, they pretty much weigh on the scale. There's a book out there called Respect and Love. vicious cycle, I think. But you have to kind of recognize where you're getting your love or your respect, so that you maintain that through this kind of a shift. It's key. That's what I do most. I teach a business owner how to sell the business themselves, really. And that requires me to do evaluation with them so that they can see which knobs and which levers, if they work on over the next few years, will increase the value of their business. Now, it's different for everything. For a sole proprietor, it's going to be different than somebody with 10 employees, different somebody with 20 employees. But that's what I do. I teach people how to work on the mechanics of the business. And I work on them through identity shifting, so that when the exit strategy happens, they're excited about it. Now, why don't we do exit strategies for ourselves? Why don't we do wills for ourselves? It's a mortal thought, right? You're going to die before you ever use it, right? Before your will's useful, that means you're gone. So who wants to do that? Well, exit strategies sit in the same category. It's kind of like, I love my business. I could never think of selling it. Am I prepared for it? No, because I don't want to go there. So the psychology behind exit strategy is something you have to push yourself to do a little bit. So the real issue here, if you can put yourself in place. I have 4 kids. I have 3 boys, 7, 9, and 11, and a daughter, 13. And my daughter is wondering what her identity is going to be. She's wondering where she's at and where she wants to go. And I can remember when I was her age, my dad was the superintendent of schools, and he built schools on reservations. So we lived on Hopi and Navajo reservations in Colorado and moved to Alaska when I was 7 to live with the Navajos and the Tlinkits. So my 30 Days of Fame is a 1970 National Geographic with a picture of me in my 3rd grade class, one little white boy and a sea of natives. Right? Little identity issue there. For the next 10 years, we had 14 exchange students live with us from all over the world. More identity questions. Graduated from high school, spent 2 years traveling the world solo. A lot of identity questions. Came back, thought I wanted to be a doctor, got halfway through med school, got in a bad ski accident, spent 2 months in a hospital, decided I didn't want to be a doctor. Moved to Albuquerque to study astrophysics at Sandia Labs. 3 years in physics labs, decided I didn't want to be a physicist. Went to Albuquerque University, studied Russian to get a degree to go work for the Secret Service. Wall came down, didn't do that, went back to Alaska to commercial fish. So a little bit of identity questions myself. A lot of transitions I went through myself, and I'm looking at my daughter going, how can I help you best? What's the future? How can I prepare you? What kind of questions should I be asking a person just in life about exit strategy and transitions? And I think that it's something that we avoid. It's like the storms that we're not preparing for between the lightning that comes through. So I think identity should be like water, perhaps. And some of you may have heard this quote before, but when you pour water in a cup, it becomes the cup. And when you pour water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. When you pour water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can drip, and it can flow, and it can crash. But its identity is always water. So be water, my friends. This is Bruce Lee, except for the identity piece. So, are you allowing the perceived success of your business to determine your self-image? I think that life is written by your definitions that you take for granted. And that if you were to take pause in your life, I'd recommend that you take words that are key to your self-image, like success, and redefine them on a consistent basis. Your definition of success today may be different than tomorrow. I had someone tell me, as I was doing their evaluation and questioning some numbers, they tell me, well, this is business ethics. These are personal ethics and this is business ethics. And I said, oh, okay, thanks for telling me that. I got a good referral I'm going to send you to. I know they can take care of you. And I think that these questions are like this. Is our identity based on business or is our identity personal? Where is your identity? So go back and draw some more circles underneath the 5 circles that you wrote. My definition of success. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics, to endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Now, number 2 question was, how successful are you? Put a new number in there. Number 4 was, where's your self-image at on this scale? Number 5, put a 12 in there, just because that feels even better than a 10. Number 1 was, how successful do other people think you are? And that's a stupid question. So cross it out. Number 4, how successful is your business? In the big picture, that doesn't matter. So what matters is, where's your self-image at on this scale? And I would hope that you could identify what's keeping you from raising the bar on that. Set some goals this year to get you where you want to go. This poem has been attributed to a lot of people, Japanese Zen master and James Mitchell, but I think it was actually written by a guy named J.L. Jack. The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work, his play, his labor, and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he's working or playing. To him, he's always doing both. For me, I don't have any idea of retirement other than this. And so if you can work this into what you're doing right now, you don't need an exit strategy. This is self-respecting identity to me. This means that you're free, basically. You know, personally, my challenge or my prayer for you, I'd wish you the courage to respect your true identity. Allow it to flow and transition with experience and wisdom and age. Because I think it's in these transitions that you'll find yourself. So this year, before the end of the year, spend some time planning this year. And have a paragraph in there how I'm going to take my self-image to the next level. What I need to do. Those things that I'm intentionally denying or avoiding that Jenny talked about. The things you want to do with your children. The things you want to merge into your life, your business, where you're going to go. Where your respect's actually coming from. Thank you very much. So, if you have technical questions about exit strategy, it's an onion. It's an onion skin. When you peel off the technical aspects of it, what you get down to almost in every area is identity. Whether someone will share documents with me or not, whether they want me to talk to their CPA to see what's in the closet, or it's all about identity. Interesting, huh? I can do all the other mechanics and the numbers and the financials and the balance sheets and the tax returns and the customers and the clients and the employees, but it's all about identity. If you've owned a business for 40 years, you are the business. You didn't have kids because of the business. You don't have a 401k because you own a small business. You have everything invested into that business. And to that couple who's 60 or 70, they have one shot at retirement, and it's the sale of that business. So my goal, my focus is to take a holistic perspective of the transition of that human being in whole, not just a transition of the business. And that requires shifting their identity. So if you're in that position, include that in your goals this year. Any questions? Yes, sir.
You said some golden words about your own philosophies. If one were to take that and live that and experience that, that is your exit strategy. Why? How do you get others to accept that so they can believe that about themselves?
It's a good question. My philosophy runs deep in everything I do. I hired Zig Ziglar's coach to train me to be a public speaker, and I spoke to thousands of people at professional service groups. Then I spoke to small groups, peer advisory groups. Then I decided I wanted to speak with people one-on-one because I wanted to have a bigger influence in their lives. Because of that, because I realized I couldn't impact or couldn't influence people the way I wanted to in a large group. But in a situation like this, you can influence people. You can tell them, allow your identity to transition to a teapot. It's okay that you've been a bottle for 40 years. Let me help you figure out what you're going to do. Let's spend a little bit more time doing this. Let's recognize who's going to be calling you for assistance. Who at the university needs your building planning experience. Who out there it needs a mentor, and planning that with them to help them to move into a work-play balance. If you just look up a master at the art of living, you'll find this poem, which I believe is probably what you're referring to for the most part, and it encapsulates the philosophy for the most part. Generations before ours didn't have retirement. This is what it was about. So, there's one more question here. Thank you very much.
Whoa.
Oh, sorry. I'm blind. Transition.
Yes, can you expand upon that?
Yes, I can. I grew up in Alaska, and Alaska's all work is seasonal, so you do whatever you can to live. And I commercial fished until I started a fish restaurant, and I ran the restaurant, realized I could run a business. I opened a Russian art shop. I actually used my Russian degree a little bit. And filled warehouses full of mammoth ivory fossil carvings and museum-quality chess sets and sold them to the first tour boat folks who came into town in Juneau. And met the gentleman who started Cellular One and climbed cellular towers, put up the first analog transmitters, was invited to Seattle to work for Nextel.
ADD, is that
Something like that. A lot of transitions. It's just one thing to the next. I think that curiosity, these questions, who am I? Where am I going? How am I going to get there? Those are curious questions. Some people don't ask, they don't care. So not everyone cares about those questions, and that's okay. But if you do, keep them top of mind. And I kept asking myself those questions. Why am I here? What am I doing? Where am I going? And eventually ended up here working with business owners for the United States Chamber of Commerce. Certainly. And I'll be around afterwards if there's more questions. Thanks again for your time. Thanks for being here.